and welcome back to On the Table Gaming. And today I'm joined with the legendary Duncan Rhodes. Duncan, thanks so much for coming on.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's good to talk to you again. It's been a little while.
Absolutely. I know it's been, I feel I got a little pile of shame back here. We had talked about Napoleonics. I picked up some British, some linemen, but they're not all painted yet. It might be my slowest collection yet, but.
Oh, they are work. Those uniforms are complicated.
More on that at a later time. What I want to talk to you today is about a few things. Oh, you're repping the colors there. I want to talk to you about the success of your recent Kickstarter. Over $1 million and quite successful. Was that something that you had anticipated?
Oh no, not even close. No. I mean, we had no idea how well it was going to do, and we're just hoping for the best, really. And so, we kind of set stretch goal. I mean, it wasn't actually Roger and myself who were doing it. So for those unaware, Roger's the guy I work with who edits all the videos that I'm in and runs the website. And yeah, my business partner through all of what we do nowadays. And we kind of. We knew the paints were good. We knew people would like them, and we were confident that it'd get backed because I think it was $50K. I think that's what the original target was to get the project funded.
Yeah, it was way back then at $50K. Yeah, that's long gone to repair.
The company we're working with, Transatlantis Games, so they're run by people who have had lots of experience doing Kickstarters before. And whilst they're a new company themselves, the people running it aren't new to the industry. So people will have encountered the people who were running it before in various other games. So they knew what they were doing with it. So they set the initial target, and they were like talking with us about stretch goals. And so we had that back and forth with ideas and things for it. And they set where the points would be. And then it was like, go. And we were like, oh, hope it passes. It would be really embarrassing if it doesn't. There's a lot of paint ranges out there. We hope people are willing to have a shot at this. And the number just kept going and going. We were sat there watching it, like we were in the studio meant to be recording, and we were just watching this number go up and up. And it was 16 minutes in or so, it got funded, and it just kept on going. And we were just sat there not believing it. Like Roger was phoning up his dad, telling him to go and have a look. And like I was talking to my parents about it, and we just couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. It's yeah, it's incredible, and I think it's really touching too, because it feels like people trusting me to follow through on something, which is huge. It is absolutely huge, and I can't wait for people to try the paints out. They're great, they're loads of fun, and I'm really excited about them.
I mean, I think that sentiment is echoed by all of us that have invested as well. And that's a cool thing about it. It's you have not just cultivated like a brand, I think, but I think, your name really stands for something, and the way you approach not only the work you do, but also the community. I think back to when you first reached out to me a long time ago, and I was like, wow, that was such a unique experience. And I think that translates across everything you do. And I think hopefully you recognize this as, people really value that and support that. And so, I know it's your product you're putting out there, but in a way, I hope you see like a community, sort of a group thank you. So thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you. And yeah, to everybody who backed the project, thank you so much for believing in us, essentially. It's I don't think I can adequately express just how much it means. I'm doing our best not to let you down, I guess. But I rest assured, I've been using these paints a lot. It's been a long process of getting them ready. I mean, it's not just something we've been working on for the last 5 minutes, and we're still doing little tweaks. And it's not like there's still lots of work being done. Like the vast majority of the paints are have been green lit now. They're just doing a few little adjustments just to make them as good as we possibly can, because there's a number of sort of points that we wanted to hit. So the most recent ones I was working with was a color we got called Trooper White, and the people might recognize why we called it that. So yes, great for white armor. This was because at the very start of it was like, so what would I like paints to do? And we've done videos on painting completely unrelated, painting stormtroopers, the Star Wars, and we were painting these, and I was like, getting the right color, so getting it so it's off-white, that it looks like white, but it's got you room to highlight with a pure white. There was no color that quite did what I wanted it to do for that, so we ended up kind of making mixes and things. So when we were doing this, we were like, well, we can make a color specifically designed for that kind of purpose, and obviously you can use it for loads of things, but when you look at it on its own, it looks like it's white. When you put it next to a pure white, you realize it's ever so slightly gray. And not only that, the coverage of it is designed to be really good base coats and really good for layering and building the color up. So it's to hit things like that. So what we were doing was testing, just changing the formula slightly to make sure that it came out of the dropper bottle nicely, but also gave the coverage of what we wanted the paint to do. So I actually had been sent a load of samples of these bottles, and what I was doing was trying them and then giving feedback, and then they'd send more, and then we'd try those, give feedback, and it's back and forth, you know, until it gets to the point we are now. And yeah, now I painted the miniature with it during this week, and yeah, that one's perfect. So it's been a lot of work on it.
So you got 54 colors, 6 washes, and one of the cool things you spread out over like shadow, mid-tone, highlight. Was that like a conscious decision that you were like, we want them presented in this certain way, or is that just kind of industry standard? Like,
it's because so there's lots of different ways, obviously, of painting miniatures. But when people are coming into it new, it can be very confusing when you look at the sheer amount of things that are available, and you don't know where to start. You know what colors. When you just look at the graphic of the color, you can't quite tell how it's going to be in real life, because like as you start to use the paints, you realize there's always a slight variation.
Yes,
like,
that can be mad.
Bright your miniature is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've always been about accessibility to the hobby, and so we thought that it was important for someone coming new to it to be able to look at the paints and go, okay, so if I'm going to be painting red, I'm presented with 3 reds that are designed as like stepping up from each other in terms of how bright they are. So it's yeah, it's called triads. You know, there are other paint ranges out there who use this kind of thing.
Paint's so criminally good, you had to partner with organized crime with these triads. Is that what?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So it's intended then so that whatever your mid-tone is going to be, you'll have something to highlight with. And if you're starting out, the 3 colors are presented to you. So if you want dark red, you then got a bright red to highlight it with. If you are painting fabric, you know that you can start with our medium red, and then you can use a darker one for shading and a bright one for highlighting. So it's nice and user-friendly like that. And then the colors surrounding it are designed that if you want to have an even brighter red, for example, you can bring some of the orange in to highlight that. Same with the green, you can bring some of the yellow in to highlight that. So it's kind of designed to be an initial presented, nice and simple to understand to begin with, and then you can kind of go your own way with it and do whatever you want with it. So that's the intent.
And how long ago did this whole process start?
We were originally approached about it last year, and I spent last Christmas holidays working on colours. So it's been going for quite a long time, and it's been, as I say, been going back and forth, making adjustments on things. It's been quite a process, but it's been really we've learned so much.
A little bit of breath of fresh air having the Kickstarter be wrapping up. Does that sort of take a load off your plate and be like, okay, whew. Or is it now like all new problems?
Yes, yeah, I'm sure something else is just beyond the horizon, but it's kind of been a job on the side of our normal job. So Roger and I are still, in full speed making the content for our website. Yeah. But this is, in the evenings I've been going and painting stuff with these, and I can't use it for my normal testing of miniatures that we're going to paint for videos, because people won't be able to get those specific paints. So, we've been keeping them a bit largely until just now it's been announced, and, now the Kickstarter's happened. We're starting to bring a few in, and we're giving you could use this as a comparison in the meantime and stuff. But yeah, so it's kind of been having a bit of a 1.5 jobs, I suppose I could describe it as.
Now, on the Painting Academy, will there be a transition to only using your paints, or will you continue to use a wide range?
Still going to use a wide range. We are obviously going to use ours a fair amount, and they're going to be, once the backers have received theirs, these paints are going to start appearing in retail and things, so they're going to be easy to get hold of. But we still want to make things as accessible as possible. So whilst we might use one of our greens, we are going to say, now I'm going to use this one. If you don't have access to this one, then you could use this one from Citadel, for example, or you could use this one from Vallejo, or whatever you want to use. So we're going to still make sure that you don't have to exclusively buy into our stuff, because we don't think that's it doesn't feel right to do that. But yeah, we will be using them alongside everything else.
Fantastic. And that's one thing I've always really appreciated, is how you work to make things accessible to everybody. And that's a huge part of this hobby. How do we bring people new in and share our love of things? So you also had some cool stretch goals in there. Anyone's in it that you were particularly fans of, or like there were some cool miniature sculptures, obviously Sir Coates. And before we get into these stretch goals, I guess, what was the genesis of Sir Coates?
Well, we wanted to have a mascot for the website. We were thinking about it for quite a while, and we were just every now and then bouncing around ideas and things. But when we originally made the academy and we started the business, there was so much to do that we couldn't really put proper time into it. So it wasn't until a little bit later on that we were able to start, thinking of this properly and start to decide what the character was going to be. But we got in touch with an old friend of ours, this guy called Sam, who many years ago worked at Games Workshop alongside us. And he's since gone his own way and set his own company up. It's a company called Weights and Graves, and it does these very dreamlike, strange fantasy science fiction kind of characters. So we actually did a painting video on one of them, and I think it's a Baiki Paladin, I believe the name of it is, and it's like this lady with a big pair of scissors as a weapon and stuff.
Oh,
so
right, yeah.
Very imaginative. So yeah, we talked with him, and we asked him if he'd be able to bring some of these ideas to life and create the character, and so he did. He made Zerko. It's like, we named him and kind of pointed what we wanted and stuff. He drew the image and made the sort of like fun, vibrant thing that we wanted. So we were like, this is great. I wonder if we can get a model of it. And so just one thing sort of led to another, and we ended up, we were like, oh, we want some stretch goals. We've got some ideas for the characters. What if we got them made too? And so it's just kind of gone from there.
I love the names, Baron von Evil or Evil.
Yeah, he's the bad guy. Just to be clear, he's the bad guy. And, lives in Castle Doomdeath. So everyone knows he's a baddie. So they're all kind of like classic, 90s cartoons kind of characters.
Yeah,
they're very fun kind of. You can get the idea of what this person's about just by looking at the picture of them. So it's meant to be just kind of fun.
Yeah, they're new but like oddly familiar, right? Where you're like, I get the theme there.
Yeah, exactly.
And the crazy thing is the Kickstarter, this is like happening fast. Like there are people being like, oh, we've got to wait so long till January 2022. And it's like, oh, no. January 22 is like right here. Like we're almost there, guys. It's like 3 months away.
It won't be long. And like I say, Transatlantis know what they're doing, and they've got a lot of experience. They've got factory, they've got warehouses like elsewhere around the globe. So they're on it. So now the paint's got the green light, it's all going to happen pretty quickly. So yeah, they'll come around sooner than people think, I think.
And so, you've been a busy guy, not just with creating content, and I want to talk about the Painting Academy in a little bit, but before that, even you've been also getting some games in it and playing some games. And so you were recently at the London GT playing some A Song of Ice and Fire. Now, what was that experience like then?
Oh, that was brilliant. So I've not really had the time to play games, of course. So what I did quite a while back, the advert came up, and so I booked it, and then kind of forgot I'd committed to going to it because there's so much going on. And then it started popping up like now and then in my Facebook feed, and I was like, oh yeah, I've got that. I better get an army ready. So it was nice because it was kind of a forced weekend away, going and having fun. And it was the first time I got playing the current edition of the game, so the 2021 rules update. So I was reading the rule book the night before to make sure I was clear on everything. And it was the first time I played it since last October. So it was a wonderful experience because the first game I was a bit jittery trying to remember what I was doing. But by the end of it, I remembered why I like this game so much and why it's one of my absolute favorite war games. And it's just brilliant. It was so much fun. I had some fantastic games. And I got to just explore the new rule. Like on paper, you see the Lannister supremacy and you're like, oh, it doesn't seem quite as powerful as the previous. And then you get hit by it and you're like, oh no, so many people running away. So yeah, I had a fantastic game against a fellow called Daniel, I believe it was, and he Jack. That was it, Jack Daniel. I remember. Jack Daniels. We had a game of Lannister against Lannister, and we made sure we had different commanders against each other, and it turned into the most games within games kind of game I've played in a long time, as we were trying to outdo each other and knowing what each other's cards were and things, and trying to guess if they were going to counterplot our different schemes and everything. It was brilliant.
And what commander were you going? Were you going to old standbys, or did you go with some classic Lannister? I know you had some love for some characters in that faction. What'd you run?
Well, I went for Jaime because that was the commander I was most familiar with in the previous version, and I know his rules had changed a little bit, and I hadn't quite grasped how everything's now all about Jaime. Whereas in the previous versions, you had a bit more around him, but now it's all about his unit, so that took me by surprise. So I used him for my first 3 games on the first day just to get my head around how everything was. And then on the second day, I wanted to try using my other army list, which was using Tywin, who I'd never used before. And it had lots of other characters and things. But that Lannister game was the first one I was going to play that day. And I know that the guy I was playing really liked using Tywin. So I was like, all right, I'll use Jaime again. So we had different commanders. So I used Tywin in the last game. And there were so many other tricks and things that I hadn't got my head around it, that I completely misplaced where everything was going to go. And so like I had Tyrion there,
Right.
you know, Lannister, and I completely wasted his ability. He didn't do his thing once. Well, I was like, all right, he should have been there.
The best thing about that, though, is the next game you play, you'll 100% remember that, though, because you'll be like, oh, I forgot it every time last time. Never again.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. What I did was I had him in one unit of guardsmen, and I didn't have anyone in the other unit, and I put the wrong one down in the wrong place. It was as simple as that.
No. They were like running across the field to get the right positioning. And But it sounds like a fun time overall. And you were doing some judging of painting competitions too, right?
Yes, the organisers asked me to judge the painting competition, which I was more than happy to do. And there were some beautiful miniatures in there, absolutely beautiful. The one that stood out to me was Brienne the Blue. I think it was the blue, the pose, the one where she's pointing. And
that's a great sculpt.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the face is what made it really pop out. It was such a beautiful paint job, just bringing the character, because you know the face is a real focal point to miniature, which is a tip for anybody if you're looking to paint a miniature quickly. Faces and bases, right? Do a good base and a really good face, and the model will look way better than it might otherwise. So, but this face really stood out. It was stunning. There was another chap there as well who he won the best army. He had a Stark army where he'd converted it all to look a little bit more Norman in style. So he had the kind of the kite shields. He changed them all, and he had like the big round shields and the sworn swords too. And he painted each one with a different pattern. So they had like all these intricate designs done by hand on each one of them. And then his archers had like defensive stakes sticking up at the front of the base, you know, like sticking up with chains between them and stuff. And he painted some knotwork on one of the movement trays. And it was an absolutely beautiful army. Yeah.
So now you're getting back, you get some more games in recently, and that's a lot, right? That's like a few like right in a row. So you've got to like, you know, it's an endurance run. Excited to play more Song of Ice and Fire now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I got home and it was quite weird actually. So I went, the last time I played before this tournament was in Stirling, which is a town up in Scotland. A beautiful town, by the way. If you're ever in Scotland, go see Stirling. And it was a great fun tournament, and the fellow who was running it, I then bumped into him at the hotel I was at the first night of the event in London. Like all the hotels in London happened to be the same. But he's also running one in January, so I've signed up for that. So I think it's the 25th, 26th of January next year. So if any of you guys want to come along and fight me,
fantastic. Well, I gotta be careful. I think I was asked to help judge the most thematic army list, so I can't. I don't want to give you any planning insiders for that, but there might be some multiple awards going out there. So start thinking.
Interesting. No,
exactly. If you're not now, if it's like you, and then did I just totally invalidate everything? I need a little disclaimer here or something. But you know, one thing I love about, we've had some other people we were talking about who just recently came into the game of A Song of Ice and Fire, and they've just been like completely wowed with it and loving it. And it's definitely one of those games where you play and then afterwards like you leave wanting more. And if you've ever had one of those games where you play and it becomes like an hour after hour after hour and you're like, I'm kind of overplaying, my attention span hasn't lasted. Song of Ice and Fire is always like short enough to keep me in it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I always find it's an exciting game. Like, no matter who I'm playing against or what's going on, I always enjoy it. I just think it is such a beautifully designed system. And I don't know. So I've recently tried out from Cool Mini, Death May Die, you know, the Cthulhu thing.
Yep.
And it seems to be quite similar in that the actual core rules of it are very simple, but the play is done via the cards. So whilst you have these intricate selections of rules, it's only ever so many in play at one time, so it allows you to focus on what you're doing. But it means there's lots of moving parts. So I think it leads to just a really beautiful game design. So with Ice and Fire, it means that it's always interesting and there's always something going on. And when you're in your turn and you're maybe like mid-turn 3 and it's all going crazy, you can always see these different routes of what you could do. And you're trying to figure out what's the best thing to do now, because I know if I don't do that, then they might do something that's going to mess up what I would have done. And you end up kind of like, you know, really tying yourself in knots trying to figure it out. It's so much fun. It's really good. And you just feel involved the whole way through. So
I'm always smiling when I'm playing. So it's a blast. And so anything on the painting table coming up for A Song of Ice and Fire in the Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy or in your personal projects? I know you have a beautiful Lannister army. Have any other factions caught your eye?
Well, yes, I've painted quite a few now. So when I was at the London GT, I actually met a number of Academy members who were there playing Ice and Fire, and they all asked me if we could do an Unsullied. So we put an Unsullied in the schedule, so you can watch out for that. We've basically just been waiting for some new kits to come out because since the Greyjoy's core box in the UK, there's not really been anything come out till just now. And all of a sudden, everything's appeared. So catch up on and fit into the schedule.
Careful what you wish for, right? When those shipping containers start coming out of China, suddenly it's like, here's everything.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's there. So I've got my eye on. Well, I've won a box of the Clegane Brigands at the tournament, so and that's got me thinking of a Clegane themed army to be like my B army for Lannisters. So that's one thing on the list to do. But I also been picking up the new stuff for Targaryens, and I really like the Dothraki theme. So I've got some Hurricanes and the Blood Riders to do now.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's that. I also got so I finished painting my core Night's Watch box, and I picked up the new Ranger Vanguard, and I really like the idea of building into a full cavalry army, so I've got them to do. I have a fully painted Stark army, so the Karstark Spearmen, I should get them to add on to that. I've got quite a lot of factions now for this game. I think I've got 4 painted, but the big thing is what I want to do is to paint an army completely with our paints. So in this case, you're wondering, by the way, I've got the prototypes here.
Perfect.
In my box next to me, because
what color that was. I'm trying to predict the army here. I was like, that was a
this one's dark sun yellow, so it's kind of a mustard yellow.
So is that a Clegane thing you're going, Mountains Men, or? Well,
that's what I'd use for Clegane, but what I'm thinking of doing is Baratheon, and for that I'd use the brighter one. Whereabouts is it? This one, Skulker Yellow. So you see it's a brighter one by comparison. It's a dark sun, so I don't know if you can see the difference there.
Oh yeah, so, wow.
Subtle differences. So Clegane, like the darker yellow, I think seems a little bit meaner and earthier, whereas this seems a bit more impressive, bright heraldry when it comes to the brighter one. But yeah, so I'm thinking of Baratheon because it's something that I don't have any painted miniatures for, and so it'd be something completely new that I can go into fresh. And just before we came on, it was like it was either that or Free Folk, and Free Folk's lots of browns, and so I wanted something a bit more colourful. So next time,
that was a long justification, and we started talking like, well, because of this and this and this, it's like, I see how it is. Next time, that's okay. I'm just gonna have Raj come on. I'll be like, Raj, come on and talk about Free Folk, and then your army, because someone isn't painting and collecting them.
Yes. Right. Well, yeah. But I've got so Roger's got them, and I've got another friend who's also collecting them. So it kind of feels like it's the army I shouldn't collect right now because they're doing them. But, they don't get them painted soon, then I may as well do it myself. But yeah, I'm thinking of Baratheons, and I can't quite decide at this stage whether to go for like fairly generic with bits I can add in to be either loyalty, or whether to go more into Stannis and do it all as the R'hllor theme.
Is that the side you would go with, Stannis over Renly? You had to choose.
The thing that appeals to me more is Tyrell. Right. I really like the look of the Rose Knights, but I think at the moment it's quite difficult to do an army themed as Tyrell because there's not that many units specifically for them. But the attachment box has made it quite clear that pikemen are going to be coming out, right? Because you got the pikeman captain. And they also, in that last preview that Simon did, there was that looked like a kind of light horseman, and he looked to me like a Tyrell cavalryman. Yeah, so that seems to me that would be a good army. You could have Loras leading it, then you could have the Marjorie and Olenna. Is it Olenna?
Yep. Is there something too, like the pikeman thing, going back to that? Like, I don't know if this resonates with you, but I like my rabble, like horde army stuff. But there's also just something about like the Lannister halberdiers, like pikemen. It's just like, okay, like sign me up. A unit of pikemen, just like I can already predict it's going to look cool. There's just something appealing about that rank and flank with the long pointy sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, those halberdiers are what got me to buy the core box in the first place, just seeing all the halberds being presented neatly, kind of, working the way forwards. So yeah, I'm really excited about the pikemen, and I've just got sort of in my mind, well, I could have 2 units of pikemen, then the Rose Knights, and they can guard one flank. So that's like my phalanx advancing, and then I can have the sentinels on one side sort of skirmishing with the crossbows, and then I've got the light lancers who I can sort of like, attacking key points. So like that's the way in my mind I build these armies, and like that sounds cool. I hope the rules work for that.
Right. I get that. I totally get that.
So I'm kind of thinking then, should I do like all the yellow units for Baratheon with a few of the Stannis specific things there, and paint the like Rose Knights and stuff on the side, and then when these later releases appear, I can just like leap fully into doing a Tyrell army.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Would you do like, and without getting too much of the weeds of a Song of Ice and Fire talk here, we'll move on to the Painting Academy in a second. Would you do like standard basing across the entire Baratheon army? Like I kind of, it bothers me when I initially painted my neutrals and all my neutrals had their own basing. And then when I have my armies all laid out and then I've got like, you know, muddy Bolton bases with like my dry Targaryen bases. And I'm like, oh, I can't stand it. For the Baratheons, would you do like all of them in the same tray style? Or do you think you might do variation?
I think I'd probably do them all in the same way, because basing is quite a key part about keeping your army together, as you pointed out. You know, if you have consistent basing, even different color schemes. So if I've got like green and yellow, then for the Tyrell and the Baratheon stuff, if the base is the same, it'll bring them all together. What I have been doing with some of the factions though is going for the same kind of core colors for it. So it's the in the Painting Academy, the video for it is the grasslands base. So I kind of paint it in that way. But what I've been doing is doing different sort of colored grass depending on what thing I'm doing. So like my Night's Watch have sort of dead grass, whereas the Targaryens have much longer grass, and then the Starks, the Lannisters have been having more sort of like generic green. So they look close enough like each other to put them next to each other and it works, whereas they do have a bit of an identity of their own. So I'll probably carry on with that. I'll probably be going for sort of like a grasslands kind of thing, probably. Yeah, with a few flowers on the Tyrell ones, probably.
Have there been any other games that you've been interested in? No, quick plug for the Painting Academy. You know, it's sometimes hard to like just pick up a random unit and paint. I'm like a little bit cautious with picking stuff, but I did get my my free Duncan Rhodes Academy member Conquest Men-at-Arms box to take a look at. And then as soon as I did, all my friends were like, that was like, you got the least interesting looking unit out of all the options. Like you should have got this, and that. But I was like, oh, I didn't know. But it was really interesting getting used to the scale, but it was a fun opportunity. I just paid shipping and I got a free box. I was like, that's pretty sweet. So thank you for that.
No, you're welcome. Well, thank you to Parabellum. So they got in touch with us, and they're a really nice company to work with, because they understand completely how how basically we run things, you know, with our subscription service, so that we can afford to eat, I guess. And they come to us and they're like, oh, we think really like what you do. We'd love to be able to offer something for your members. And we were like, okay, what are you thinking of? Well, we got some free boxes. Would they like some? And we were like, I'm sure they would. So
yes, we did.
And they originally approached us just wanting our opinion on some miniatures, and so we ended up sort of having a conversation with them about it. And we kind of seen their stuff on the shelves, but with the Academy, there's so many different subjects to cover that we'd not looked at in any great depth. But looking at those models, we were like, these actually are really cool, and the way it's presented is so nice. So we're like, would you be able to show us the core box? And so they sent us one, and we were like, this is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful box set. And for those who aren't aware of it, it's like a classic rank and file, you know, mass battle game. And in the core box, you get so many miniatures in such a massive box, and they're a slightly larger scale to what you might be used to as well. That it's really impressive when you have it all out there. So we thought, all right, we'll do a video on it. So we picked this soldier called a Steel Legionnaire, who's like an elite guy with a big greatsword. The members really liked it, and so in fact in the website we have a forum, and they've been asking for some more videos on it, so we plan to do some more of that. So I've been painting some conquest stuff for myself, and I went for the faction called the 100 Kingdoms, which is like your classic human faction, though I keep looking at the Wadrun, who are their version of orcs. And orcs aren't normally my cup of tea, right? They're just, the style of orcs generally doesn't appeal to me in various games and stuff. I like more organized looking armies. But the way they've approached these is kind of as if they're like, they've basically been created as a warrior race by one of the other factions in the game, and they were meant to be like soldiers on their behalf, and they broke free and went and created their own society. And it's very much like Amazonian tribes and how they've kind of set up their society, and it's detailed in things like their metabolisms are so fast, they need loads of people to go and get food. So all of it's like based around this. And then some of them are then allocated for warriors, and they have to go through these paths and stuff. So it's like, it feels like a real culture. And I just really like that, because it makes me believe in it working. And then they ride around in dinosaurs, which is like even better. They've got one on the way called an Ultimate Predator, which is essentially a T-Rex, but it's like a sort of a feathered, you know, the more modern depiction of dinosaurs and feathers.
Which is still things I'm getting used to, but
yeah, it's strange, isn't it? But it means that you can put lots of bright colors on it. And then there's this, it's a matriarch on the back, I believe. It's got a big spear and stuff. It just looks so cool. So I keep looking over at those thinking,
I was looking at the Nords until at some point, like, it's kind of like a somewhat free folky-ish style. Like they got giants in this, and I was like, you're right. I should diversify in my interest a little bit.
Oh, it's all right. Go for what you like.
Any other games that have been catching your eye?
I've been painting a lot of stuff for the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms, which is a game by Modiphius Entertainment. If anyone's familiar with Skyrim, you'll know exactly what to expect from this. It's a skirmish game set in Skyrim at the moment, but they're going to expand it into other, eras of the Elder Scrolls. And I just love it because it feels like you're playing a role-playing game when you're playing it, because it's very, it's all heavily narrative based. So it's like you'll have heroes who have their own special cards with their stats on, and then you get items, so you actually give them individual bits of equipment, and then you have your troops who are more like nameless sort of NPC kind of guys, and you go on quests with them. So in each game, at the start of it, you draw a quest, and you've got to try and achieve this quest for further things, and you get items and stuff to build up your characters. So it's the way I like to play is narrative, and this leans heavily into that. So I've been having a great time with that. I've been working on painting the entire first wave of releases for it, which I've nearly done. I've just got a few more Drago to paint before I've completed all of that.
I can't imagine what your paint table looks like. And mine gets a little bit backed up. The school year started and suddenly everything slowed down. Like I said, I got those British linemen I'm going to use your tutorial for. I got all the paints, everything's all ready. I haven't dived in. I'm waiting for like a long weekend or something, but
oh yeah, I'd be ashamed to show people my painting desk. Beautifully clean back there. Mine's nothing like that. It's horrifying.
That's good. That's reassuring on some level. I don't know. I feel like there's a video. Like, can we see what behind the scenes? Like, how does Duncan Rhodes' painting table look like? Requiring minds. And so the Painting Academy. So I was really excited to jump in there pretty early when it got started up, and honestly, I was really thrilled with it at the beginning. But since then, it's really it's ballooned in content. You've obviously got the forums as well. If someone was maybe on the fence or had heard about it but hadn't really checked out, what might be a compelling reason that you might see as for someone to check out and join the Academy?
So the Academy's core thing is all about giving people the confidence to essentially have a go and to improve their painting. So everything's done in as accessible a way as possible and as clear a way as possible. So each video it runs through like a miniature or a technique or whatever, but everything you do about it is designed to be as clear and as honest as possible about showing you what happens during the process of painting these miniatures. So if there's a few stages in where things look messy or it looks a bit rubbish or something like that, if you don't know, then you might hit this point and think to yourself, well, my model doesn't look like that photograph, because photos are often like tweaked and look especially nice. So you might think, I'm doing something wrong. And I've known people in the past who then essentially go, oh, I can't do this. It's not for me. I'm embarrassed. And they don't want to show people their miniatures. So this is all about kind of showing you that, no, this is what mine looks like at that stage. And that's perfectly fine, because we then do these things and suddenly you see it come together. So it's about as honest a painting tutorial thing, I think, that we can do as possible. And it's all designed based around that. We cover a huge variety of different subjects and topics. So there's a number of techniques on there which kind of show particular things, from quite simple stuff like just useful things to know as well, things like applying decals to your miniatures, what to do, to more detailed stuff like how to do wet blending, how to which is nowhere near as scary as you might think it is when you first encounter blending the two colors together live on the miniature.
Well, if I might jump in, that's actually a big thing I discovered, is that I had sort of stagnated in my painting technique because I had been really nervous, and then I'd gotten more comfortable, and then I just stuck doing what I knew over and over and over again. And then even just going through and following your tutorials and trying new things up, but seeing like, oh, I'll just watch this video. I don't have anything to apply like a decal to, or like I'm not doing any wet blender, but I watched it and I'm like, oh, okay, like I can do this. And it just like slowly inches out my comfort zone. And now I feel like I wouldn't say I'm a world-class painter, but it's fun to be able to be like, oh wow, like I worked at this for over a year, and I've gotten better and I can see it. So that's been like really rewarding just to follow along. And as a teacher, I really do think you have that down. I don't know how much thought you put into the structure of your videos, but yeah, it's somewhat formulaic, but it's really clear and it makes it easy to follow along. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you. It's funny to say that. My mum always used to say to me, I should have been a teacher.
Hey, there you go. No, I think you might be. I mean, as a teacher, I'm looking at you being like, man, that's pretty cool. I would say, but teaching is great too. And so, you know, lots of cool stuff going on, and good stuff going on with the Academy. You got the Kickstarter here, you know, so with the success of the Kickstarter, have you thought about like other products here? You know, I'm trying to think of a, you know, Duncan Rhodes, you know, we could do a playoff of Rhodes. You could do all-weather tires for when the roads need, you know, they need two, not one too thin coats, but one big coat, like drive safe out there. Like, I don't know, what do you think? Is there any other things you could branch out to?
Got some ideas. I was thinking of maybe we could do model railway stuff, Duncan Railroads.
Duncan Railroads. There we go. Wow. Yes. Now that is a road less traveled. That's something for sure.
We have so we've got some other ideas and things that we're working on, and you know, the sort of characters that we made for the Kickstarter with the stretch goals. Like, it might give some people some ideas, the sort of things we're thinking of. But we want to make sure we stick to the roots of like what we do in focusing on the painting of stuff. So the range at the moment is kind of the core starting point of it. So I think people can expect to see more paints coming out and more new triads of covering more and more things, because the range what we've got right now, 60 paints sounds like a lot at first glance, but when you're trying to cover basically a range that can allow you to paint anything, the space starts to become quite combative, I suppose, of working out which ones are supposed to be there.
Right.
So there's lots of things that we want to add, and so people can expect to see some more paints coming along, where we're going to start adding new triads to cover all sorts of different things. We're basically really excited about it, and Transatlantic has been great with it, and they really want to do more and more things. So you'll see more hobby products coming from us, I think.
I can't wait. And so, you know, we're thrilled over here, and a lot of the painter friends that we have, Mike Meeple, Nessie knows, and we're thinking we want to do some sort of like launch party thing when we all get our paints. We might try and host a fun like event where we can all sit down and start messing around and painting some fun stuff. So I don't know if you guys have anything planned, but I think the community is excited. So we'll see what sort of fun we have with it.
That sounds like fun. I suppose when we know when people are going to start receiving their sets, we can talk about it.
We'll get closer. But you know, thank you so much for coming on here talking about it. Sounds like you got a lot of great stuff going. Oh, actually, before we go, Sir Coates, right? That's a cool miniature. You know, what if we're gonna have maybe the community, we could make if we're gonna make him like an NCU for Song of Ice and Fire. What faction do you think he would be in if we get some fan made you know, rules for him?
Oh, so he has to be he's meant to be like the shining paladin that's trying to do the right thing, might make mistakes now and then, but ultimately is trying to do the good thing. So I don't think you could have him in Lannister or Freecoat, or well, maybe maybe Jon Snowish before he kind of learns about how the world really is. I don't think he'd fit with Baratheon, because there's too much of like second fighter things.
He's just going to be chilling on the side of the High Seneschal, the George R. Martin sculpt, being like, "Listen, I'm not getting in this is a dark, sad world. I'm going to be over here."
I suppose probably Stark is
okay.
Yeah, is probably where he'd fit the best.
All right. So if anyone out there is listening and you feel creative, let's see you. What kind of rules did you come up for a Sir Coates House Stark NCU character, so that he could, you know, help out the goodies on the battlefield, trying to do the right thing, right? We'll maybe watching out for Ned Stark there, trying to keep him out of trouble.
That's right. Maybe he gives the army that's fully painted a victory point.
There we go. Hey, I better get to painting my Starks then. Oh boy. But thank you so much for coming on.
You're very welcome. It's always a pleasure to chat, and it's always great to say hello. And again, thank you to everybody who backed the Kickstarter, and for the unbelievably touching messages about trusting what we do. We're not going to let you down.
And we're looking forward for more great things in the future. Keep it up. And in the meantime, we hope you get your miniatures on the table.